From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
I got you right now, babe.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, key takeaways from Mike Norvell's press conference at his annual spring luncheon. And I hope you packed your toothbrush, kids. We've got a lot of sugary Kool-Aid from the assistant coaches they're serving up. What if this team actually ends up being kind of awesome? Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it and take it. It works faster and longer. It's energy with benefits. Go over to vitaminenergy.com. Check out all the different varieties, potions, formulas they have. Right now, we're rocking with the Focus Plus, everybody. The Focus Plus Extra Strength. Not only 260 milligrams of all-natural caffeine, but a little green tea extract on top of it just to make sure that those 7 hours are a full 7 hours. They're not messing around over at vitaminenergy.com. Vitamins, nutrients, award-winning ingredients like B6, B12, citrulline, that's in my pre-workout, by the way. Vitamin B3, potassium, and as I mentioned, the green tea extract. It's all in one little bottle. Take it wherever you want to go. Throw it in the gym bag. Leave it in the drawer of your desk. Leave it in the break room. Everybody's going to be like, what's this stuff? Take it. It's good. Trust me. Be that person. Be the hero. VitaminEnergy.com. Maybe that can be their tagline. Warchant.com tagline is Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. Hope you enjoyed all the interviews from the spring luncheon that went down on Monday morning. I think 11 assistant coaches, Mike Norvell at the podium. Corey Clark and myself will distill some of the bigger storylines from the day. But if you want to burn some time, kill some time, feel free to hop over to the Warchant TV YouTube page. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe. We're almost at like 100,000 people or something, maybe. Or there's some big number about to, maybe not 100,000. 70,000?
Close. Maybe 70. I'll look real quick.
Or
Hold on
50?
a second.
Maybe 50,000.
50,000. So you
not
doubled
even close.
Yeah,
not even close, Aslan,
yeah.
Really. You know me, always talking my things up. Anywho, I don't need to talk up this guy. He's the man, the myth. He's a legend. It's Corey Clark, everybody. Corey Clark, what's up, big dog?
Living the dream. Hey, thank you. Everybody sit down. Come on. But thank you very much, man. Yeah, just living the dream. Getting ready to start spring practice. Got my days completely clear now. Mornings are clear. Afternoons are clear. Daddy likes it, I'll be honest with you. That's the getting ready for spring practice and all that entails.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I'll let you explore the space if you want. But we did get an email before the luncheon started with the schedule for this upcoming spring, and the note in there that said that the spring practices will be closed to the media. And Mike Norvell issued a statement in that email that got sent to everybody. It's been pinned on the tribal council. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it was, I think he says this is not
Can you read the last sentence?
Yeah, that's actually, I was going to go right to that. This is not a suggestion that I think that last season's record had anything to do with media members observing our practices, especially after we won 19 in a row in 2022 and 23 with media at practice. However, this is the best decision for our program at this time.
Yeah. No, I don't want to explore it either. Nobody wants to hear me complain. It's not really a complaint. I don't. Again, I'll just be quick about it.
And before you start, Corey, be mindful. I think most people don't care.
No, 100%
not about
don't
your
care.
opinion, but they're like, they don't care that it's closed. They think that we're a nuisance, and you're wrong, everybody, but that's fine. But anyhow, you go.
Well, I mean, I don't know how they would think we were a nuisance. Again, they won 19 straight games when we were sitting there watching practice. Bobby did pretty well in the 90s, and every one of those practices was open. What media members watching practice has no effect, clearly, on the team because nothing changed from 2023 to 2024 in terms of access. And the team was horrible after being really good. So, but no, again, it just goes back to, to me, the optics of 2-10. So now I'm going to completely change what I believe in. And that's just it. It's not like this isn't something that we asked for when he got here. This is something he brought to the table and said, this is what I do. I open my practices. I like watching. I like letting you guys see how hard we coach them, how much they grow, how much they get better, how they take coaching, how hard we work. All that stuff was on display. He was showing off, and after 2-10, it's gone now. But it's fine. Literally, it's fine. Like, again, I'm not joking. My job is easier. My life is easier. My days are more clear and free to write just glorious columns like the one I wrote on Monday, not about practices being closed, but about some of the stuff that Norvell talked about the portal that we'll get into. So that's it. You bring in Gus Malzahn, and then all of a sudden, whose choice was this?
Yeah.
That's a legit question. Whose choice was this, Malzahn or Norvell? Who's running the show, Malzahn or Norvell? That would be my only concern if I was a fan. Obviously I want Florida State to do well. Is like, okay, is he completely going against everything he believed in because of one bad season? That's all. That would be my only concern. But I know it's not really a concern of y'all's. It's not all that big a concern of mine. And they also said, we'll see. I highly, highly doubt this. But they said it's just for spring only for now.
Well, shout out to our guy, Gator Kirk, who pointed this out when we were lamenting this possibly happening. And, during the fall, they have a walkthrough on Sunday. They're off Monday. They practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and they have a walkthrough Friday.
Right.
So we didn't get to watch all the practices. We got Tuesday and Wednesday.
Right.
I'm not trying to sound ungrateful when I'm saying that. So they did practice without us there half the time when you really think about it. So, yeah, to your point, fall might be an option. Who knows? But like maybe they'll just give us one day, and I think that'd be fine too. But I'm fine either way. I'll be okay. Check out Seminole Headlines. I'm sure Ira will be able to share some anecdotal stuff that he was able to glean from the reasoning for this happening. Which, yeah, one of the things that he talked about, Corey, that kind of made sense to me was, so it's not just us out there covering. It's us. It's 247. It's the Democrat, etc. So, for example, player X has a good day. We're like, hey, this guy's looked really good. We're saying it. Every other website is saying the same thing. And then this player's family is like, well, why is my kid not playing? His agent's like, why is my guy not playing? He reaches out to other schools. The other school's like, hey, man, we'll let you come to our school if you're playing well, and we'll pay even more money. So then there's all these different layers of things that can happen in this day and age that maybe weren't as prevalent 5 years ago when he was like, sure, come on out, watch everything.
Especially in the spring. Because, look, if we start writing something about a kid having a good practice on August 19th, it doesn't matter. He's not eligible to go anywhere. There's another window coming up in about a month, right?
Yeah.
Where players can enter the portal again. So, yeah, if Warchant is writing that Trevor Jackson looks unbelievable, he looks like he's a future All-American, he's been great, they can't stop him, then yeah, it might add some fuel to trying to get into that window that wouldn't necessarily. And it's also us watching practice. Like, it's not like you're getting incredible football savant experts telling you, oh, the right guard is a man among boys. Like, holy cow, he's going to be an NFL first round pick. Like, that's not something that we're really, I don't know. We don't have the bandwidth to know how to we don't have the
chops,
the expertise to know that for sure. So it's just our opinion. And again, that's why I would always say almost all my practice reports that I've written over the last 4 years, almost all focused on wide receivers versus DBs, because I can know who won that battle. I can know who shook a DB, high pointed a ball, broke up a pass. All that stuff is easy to see. The stuff in the box, the line of scrimmage, it's harder to know, especially when you're down on the sideline because you don't have a great viewpoint of it. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. There's probably some validity to that spring practice is different because it's an audition, not just for your team anymore, not just an audition to try to be in your starting 22. It's an audition to be in anyone's starting 22, all 130 schools. And that's why if you've been paying attention to coaches around the country, they are, the spring game's going away. The annual college football spring game, and I'm not talking about just Florida State. Florida State was the first one to cancel it, but they had a pretty good reason. I think Nebraska just canceled it to cancel it. Didn't he say, like, we don't want people watching our game and deciding that's who we want on our team and coming and buying our players? We don't want to showcase our players for other people. And in the spring, that is a legitimate concern because that spring window opens up. Now, if there is no spring window anymore and they only have one portal window and it is in December or whenever it was, maybe Norvell next year spring practice is open again because there's no risk in losing like a really good backup quarterback or a backup wide receiver that just might not get on the field much. So that's it. That's all. It's fine. It's fine. We'll still get to talk to all the players and all the coaches we want.
We got to speak to all the coaches on Monday. We spoke to Mike Norvell at the podium, and my biggest takeaway, Corey, was when he was kind of talking about taking a more, I don't want to call it hands-off, but obviously more of a delegator, overseer now with having Gus, the play caller, and he'll probably be obviously commanding much more minute, granular details will be kind of put over to Gus. And Mike talked about how different the game is right now, right? And he wants to be a guy that the players can kind of come to. He can mentor them a little bit better. That's probably not the right verb, but he just kind of mentioned something about him wanting to be more available to help these guys out on the field, off the field, which might sound hokey to some people, but I think he got to a point probably last year where, man, he was having to play good cop, bad cop, run the offense, manage the portal, manage his roster. And like, listen, 2 years ago, you've got Jared Verse to police your defense and, Jarian Jones policing the defense. You've got Trey and Johnny and, Jordan Travis, obviously. So I don't think he had to do a lot of good cop, bad cop and thing. But when you're bringing in 40 new players every year, and I know they did a little bit of that in 23, right? They sprinkled a little bit in 2022. They sprinkled a little bit in 2023. But what they did last year, onboarding all those new people, I think he realized, man, it's hard to get leaders to rise up, so I probably have to do a little bit more proactive sort of stuff in terms of coaching personalities and egos and psyches. That's at least what I took about that. I thought that was one comment he kind of made, and that was, I thought, the biggest headline for me. What about you?
Yeah, if you're asking me what I thought about that, yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that's something he's going to have to get used to, being the delegator. And I was going to ask him that, but we ran out. Literally, I had my hand up, but they ran out of time. They weren't I did get a question in, but there was another question I wanted to ask, basically about and I told you this yesterday, like, how does he see himself at practice? What is he going to do? What's it going to look like? Has he thought about that? Like, how's he going to how is practice any different than him? But for him, when he's not in charge of a side of the ball. But he admitted as much. Like, this to me was the first time you got the real impression that, I mean, I've had this impression anyway. I'm saying, like, from his words, his mouth, that, this is Gus's offense. Right. I just felt like the way he talked about, I have complete confidence in those two guys on that side of those sides of the ball. He might have used the phrase "frees me up," but he definitely intimated that it freed him up to have more one-on-one conversations, to whether on the field, off the field, but he's open more to the players because he's not having to worry about. That's how he said it. He's like, I'm open more for conversations and one-on-ones and dialogues and other things because I'm not focused on one side of the ball.
Yep.
And so that's exactly what that's the truth. I don't know how that manifests itself into a better product, like having the head coach that's more accessible. Or not as doesn't have the time constraints because of there's somebody else game planning and installing, but still it probably doesn't hurt. But it's quite obvious it's going to be Gus's offense. That you don't bring him in to not be the first fiddle, but still there was a little bit of question mark about, like, how is Mike Norvell really going to be as a head coach with no real say in the offense, obviously has say, but like, it's not his baby. It's somebody else's baby. Because, babies are hard to love. That's the thing, Aslan.
No, they're adorable. Everyone's love their babies. Exactly
right. No. Your baby is easy to love. Everybody else's baby, after about, I'd say 30 to 45 seconds of crying, you're like, man, get that thing. Not her, not that sweet adore. Get that thing out of here. No. I'm trying to enjoy Severance.
Yeah.
Get that screaming baby out of here. But it's not his baby anymore necessarily. So I wonder how all that will manifest itself. But for me, I thought the headline and what I wrote about, and it was the question I asked about because Ira started off the column. I started off the column with a great Ira anecdote, but Ira started off the press conference asking about Castellanos. And did he ask him to be that kind of outgoing in reaching out to the other people, or is that just who he is? And Norvell was like, well, yeah, that's who he is. And then he almost stopped talking about Castellanos completely. It just started talking about that's what we need. Those are the kind of guys we needed, those kind of personalities. And that's what I wrote about. It's like he didn't kind of admit. He absolutely admitted. Now, he didn't say, like, this guy was a mistake last year, that guy was a mistake last year, this guy. But we all know it. It wasn't just that they went and got guys that had been backups at big schools, young but backups, and had never accomplished anything. And they obviously switched that philosophy over into, let's go get guys that have played and played well in big moments at big schools. But also guys that talk, guys that care. He used the word desperate multiple times, talking about the portal guys he brought in, and that is such a big deal, man. It was such a miscalculation of epic proportions, and I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. Like when you go 1-10 against FBS competition, and the one was a narrow win, you were that close to being 0-11, that is an epic failure. And the biggest, they did not bring in people that had history of playing well in big moments, but also they brought in there was such a leadership void to go along with the talent void. There was nobody there to turn it around when it went poorly. Who had the voice of the locker room? Who rallied the troops? Obviously that's Norvell's job too, but golly, there was just no ownership. There were no personalities. There was no ownership. There was no competitive fight.
Accountability is a word that he used a few times too, right?
Absolutely. So he did talk about that. He wanted guys with an edge. He said that multiple times too. I was recruiting an edge. Because, look, man, I'm not trying to – think about the difference, and I brought this comparison up before, but I'm bringing it up again because I use it in the column. The difference between the combo of Jaylen Brown, Malik Benson versus Deuce Robinson, Squirrel White. I mean, that's not even a comparison. Like, Squirrel White had 60 catches in a season. Deuce Robinson has like 13 touchdowns in his career. Jaylen Brown and Malik Benson have done jack squat in college. They're fast. They were high recruits coming out of high school, had a lot of stars next to their name, but they've done nothing. And since they've done nothing, not only do they not have any experience of doing anything, why would any of their teammates really listen to them? Why would they be able to be leaders when they've accomplished nothing? I feel like when you bring in offensive linemen that have played at a high level, they've beaten Alabama. The kid from Ole Miss, Pettis, was a game away from being in the playoff. Like, they played in these huge moments and had success. They're easier to follow than T.J. Ferguson. They just have more of an impact. They have a better impact on the psyche. Whether they say a bunch or not, it just you got more grown-ups, and you've got more grown-ups that are successful that I think have more of like a pro mentality, like a pro's pro. This is how we do it. We work hard. We're here to work for 2 hours. We're not going to be babies and complain because we're not playing. Like, all these guys have lived it. So I just that edge, those personalities with Tommy having the biggest one, I think it seems like anyway. Just all of it matters, and it's good to know when he was asked about that was obvious that he made a mistake. He didn't say, I really effed this one up, guys, last year. But we all know it. We saw the games. But that he was willing to say that he had to go change the way he attacked the transfer portal. Not just, we need more talent. We need more experience. We need guys that care and play desperate and care. And, we'll see starting Saturday. That's Saturday against Alabama. But that absolutely was their philosophy this offseason.
Yeah, I just think last week when we were talking about where the narrative's going to be, and, I cited that video that they showed from the squat party, and Josh Storm's like, look around, and you're only going to get as far as you guys can get. If, the only reason that you're getting all these gains in the gym is because you're being pushed by the guys around you. I think that is the entire storyline from now until August 30th is how well this team gets along, how much are they lifting each other up, where's the leadership coming from, because they've addressed I don't want to call it a talent gap, but obviously guys that have proven they can play football at this level. Okay, you've got these guys that have proven they can play football at this level. Now, can they get integrated fast enough and get a little bit better because they're playing for guys beside them, they're playing for something bigger, the sort of stuff that rallied the 2022 team at the end of the year and then carried into 2023. So,
when you think about that, I played sports in high school. Many of the people listening to this played sports at a higher level than that even, but when you join a team or a program, a lot of time, typically there's a guy or two that's the guy that is the leader of the team. He might be a jerk. He might not be a hazer, but he's not a guy that just is going to give you respect because you're a sophomore on the varsity baseball team when he's a D1 prospect as a senior. But think about that guy, the guy I'm talking about, or that girl. If you played women's sports, the same thing. That hierarchy exists on so many teams. And what did it mean for a newcomer to have Verse kind of not put his arm around him necessarily, but hey man, you can play. Just what does that mean? Even if it was just 6 words that he said to him all year. Or man, you got some talent. Whatever it might have been for Verse or Travis or Benson or Keon. to like even raise their eyebrows and go, man, that's a play now. You could be a big time player. Just that little shot of, because of course Norvell's going to talk him up, but when you get a teammate that you respect, that is better than you and is one of the best players in the country or in the conference, when he gives you that vote of confidence, it means more. And now again, Deuce Robinson's not Keon Coleman, Squirrel White isn't Rashad Green, but if those guys, I don't know, man, maybe they have a big game against Alabama, and then the next week they tell LaWayne McCoy, man, you're a badass. That fills you up, man. It just you can't kind of replicate that. Now I don't know that LaWayne McCoy needs any confidence boosts, but I assume we all can use it from time to time. And I just think that power, the power from a leadership on a team to just it's almost like the cool kids.
Yeah.
Like you see the cool kids sitting at the lunch table and they let you sit at their lunch table with them. That fills you up. And then you go torment the nerd and dump him in the garbage can because you can now. You've got your – obviously, let's not do that, everyone. But that's – like you just want to sit with the cool kids. You want to be noticed by the cool kids. Last year, there were no cool kids. There was nobody there. The lunch table was completely empty.
Bunch of latchkey kids.
No, but yeah, they all went home. They're all sitting in their cars in the parking lot eating alone and sad. There was no lunchroom. There was no cool lunch table to sit at.
I was a latchkey kid, by the way, everybody, so relax. I can say
I was a latchkey kid, too. Yeah. Do they still have them?
No. You'll get called to Department of Children and Families if you let your 10-year-old kid walk home from the bus stop by themselves without a parent waiting for them at home. It's incredible. But that's for the
there
other
was that
podcast
story
that I
in
do.
Georgia where the woman left her 12-year-old son, because she had to take one of the kids to a doctor's appointment, and the 12-year-old son walked a mile to like a convenience store to go get a Coke or something, and she got arrested.
Unbelievable.
For child endangerment. It was crazy.
Unbelievable.
Not like we used to grow up as
No, sir.
No, buddy.
All right, let's talk about the other part of health, physical health. So the injuries that we do know, shout out Mike Norvell. So Jason Jenkins out for the spring, Conrad Hussey out for the spring, and Shaheem Brown also out for the spring, though I think he said maybe potentially Conrad and Shaheem can get some work towards the end of it. Limited, sounds like Gunnar Hansen was the guy that he mentioned. That was that was the first name he mentioned. I don't know if there was anybody else, but I
think that was it. And he did say, I mean, it's Norvell talking about injuries, so come on. But he did say that he thought maybe Shaheem and Hussey could be back by the very end of spring. But it's like you're not going to – I would doubt very seriously they're going to rush Shaheem back for anything. But he did make a point of saying that those two would be back by the end of spring or could be back by the end of spring, meaning it's not serious enough to keep them out for the fall. If the reason he said that was to let people know, okay, yeah, they probably won't play in the spring, but there's a chance they could be ready by the spring, meaning don't worry that it's a season-ending injury for those two guys. Jenkins, he did not make that distinction, so do with that what you will. And I will say that he did say he's like, we feel really good. We feel really good and fortunate about where we are injury-wise. Because he said there's a few other guys that might be limited because of off-season procedures and stuff, but Gunnar Hansen was the only offensive player he mentioned, which is good because that offense needs all the practice it can get.
Coming out to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, practice your social skills, hanging out with your friends and other people, strangers that can become your friends because everybody that hangs out at the Corner Pocket's awesome. Do it during trivia at 7 p.m. tonight. Have some fun, compete, make friends. What are the prizes out there for winning trivia, Corey? Is it all bragging rights or is there?
Come on, Aslan. No, of course not. Who wants bragging rights? You got $40 for first place,
nice.
$30 for second, and $20 for third.
Awesome. And then
it's house cash, but you're going to want to use that house cash anyway. It's Corner Pocket. And $40 at Corner Pocket goes a long way now. Just throwing that out there.
Thursday night, bingo night, 4 rounds, $250 U.S. currency up for grabs in each single round. So go check that out on Thursdays. And this Friday, Kettle Black performing from 8 to 11, Corey Clark. So get there for happy hour and then linger to the live sounds of Kettle Black at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. 2475 Appalachia Parkway, cptallybar.com, the website. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com, 260 milligrams, all natural caffeine, no sugar. But here's your sugar crash time, everybody. It's time to serve up the Kool-Aid, Corey Clark. All right, so We're going to talk about Tony Tokar's, Terrance Knighton. Those are the guys I spoke to. I'm going to start with Tony Tokar's, Corey Clark. I'm going to play this soundbite for you here. Ask Tony, what's it been like? Gus has got presence, man. Like, Gus walked in that room on Monday, and it was like, oh, here's Gus.
What do you think it says that Gus was the only coach that didn't, sit around and eat with us?
Yeah. No, he got the head coaching treatment. He had the media staffer stood by his side the whole time. It was interesting. I found it interesting, Corey.
I did too.
Everybody else had either garnet or black or white polo shirts. He had a purplish Florida State. I mean, I see it.
Well, just like I sat with Surtain for 10 minutes at 8 and talked about Steph Curry.
Yeah.
I don't know who you sat next to.
Papuchis. We talked about hockey
okay,
and
there you
things
go.
of that nature.
And then Malzahn was in and out.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you. Well, that's fine. It's fine. We're not. Yeah. I don't think me and Gus are going to be best friends, and that's not the job anyway. I just thought that was. I thought that was interesting that he walked in, talked, and then left. Didn't eat a one little forkful of pork or barbecue. He just got out. He got in and got out. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, Tokar's.
Yeah, shout out Legends, by the way. The brisket was solid.
Is that who it was?
Yeah, that's what
that was good.
Yeah. So ask Tokar's, what's it been like being in these meeting rooms with Gus Malzahn? What are you seeing from him? What's his message been to you coaches, but also the team? I want to get your thoughts on this interesting answer I found, Corey.
We're going to be the best offense in the country. That's not a pipe dream. That's not something that just sounds good to say. We're going to put our players in the best position to be successful, find out what they do really well, and go do it.
Best offense in the nation. That's the second person that said it, Corey Clark. What do we think?
I'm all about it, man. Shoot for the stars and land on the moon, or whatever the phrase is that we can't ever get right. I don't foresee them being the best offense in the country, but I like the fact that, why would you, if you have any ability at all, in any confidence at all, why would you say anything different? We want to be the 13th best, top 20. Why limit yourself? Just say you want to be the best offense in the country. Yeah, man, it's like the thing in the 90s. Remember when Oasis would tell everybody that every time they got in front of a camera, they'd be like, we're the best band in the world.
Better than the Beatles.
We're the best rock band in the world.
Yeah.
And they probably weren't, but enough people believed them that they sold out stadiums and sold a gazillion records, and they had a lot of bangers, had a lot of big hits. So maybe they were the best band in the world, but they believed it. And keep telling yourself you're the best offense in the country, even if you don't hit that sky-high expectation. You still have a chance to have a really good year. And it would be weird if Malzahn didn't have that. I'm sure that's been his goal since Tulsa. I want to have the best offense in the country. The thing about Malzahn is there have been times, Aslan, where he has had the best offense in the country. So he's lived that life before. This isn't, no offense to James Blackman, but James Blackman every preseason would say they were the best team in the country. Well, he didn't know what that was like. He'd never been on the best team in the country. Well, Malzahn has had either the best or one of the best offenses in the country many times in his career. So, yeah, you might as well have that as your expectation and your goal.
Good things he also had to say about Tommy, called him dynamic, said he was a leader. So the most important thing is that it has been important to Tommy to connect with the teammates. He's seeing that, and it really is a crucial, vital part of what they need to have happen for this team to get back on track. So, again, just more data about him doing the right things. Again, we'll see August 30th, but like to hear that from the quarterback coach, obviously. Terrance Knighton, Corey, you talked about guys being pros. Asked him how DeAndre McCray has looked like. He said DeAndre McCray, the transfer from Western Kentucky, says physically looks great. Also, he's been able to pick up the playbook so fast that it's allowed Terrance Knighton to get on everybody else. So
okay, that's good.
Yeah, if you're a returner, if you're a new guy, I don't want to hear it. He's only been here this long. He's figured it out, so you need to figure it out too. Terrance Knighton saying things like, you talked about not being a hazer. We were asked about the freshmen. He's like, don't ask me about freshmen. He's like, we don't talk about freshmen until they make a play. He didn't bite on anything. I'm like, what about JUCO guys? I'm like, what about Tylen Coleman? He's like, he got all of his years back. He's a freshman too. Next question.
That's funny.
So it's that was really good. Terrance Knighton, a real good kind of listen. Asked him about KJ Sampson, Daniel Lyons. Said KJ Sampson has NFL qualities. So that's a guy that he's going to be staying on much the same way he'll be staying on Darrell Jackson. Said Daniel Lyons has been a little bit up and down, but it'll be paramount for him to find consistency. He'll stay on his case as well. Asked him about James Williams. We're all curious about what he's going to be. Asked him about whether or not Is he just going to remain kind of a specialist, if you will, like a third down guy, or is he close to becoming an every down guy? That's what Terrance Knighton had to say.
He's there. He's there. He's put on 20 pounds. He looks great. He's 265, and when we're at our previous school, I had to fight with him every day to be 250. So now he wakes up 265. His mind is right. He loves Coach Norvell. He's enjoying the team. It's just a positive environment, and that's what he needed. And obviously, me and him have a special bond. He's had his challenges in his personal life, so it was a certain surrounding that he needed to be successful, and it's the perfect place for him. But James is an every down player, and if he goes out and have the year I expect him to have, then he won't be here longer than a year. I
like the way that sounds.
Yeah, amen, brother. I do too. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great. And Tony White, who I talked to on Monday, the new defensive coordinator, obviously. He said that he had put on, I think he said, I don't know if it was 10 or 15 or 20. I can't remember the number. But he's like, yeah, I think he said he's got quads now. He's like, you can see his quads now. He goes, it used to be if you just looked from the waist down, he looked like a wide receiver. And we always joked with him that he looked like a wide receiver. Well, now he looks like a defensive lineman. So, yeah, he could be a guy that, depending on how spring goes and what we hear through the grapevine, he might be a guy that has a lot of expectations on him. He already does. But he might be the guy that is this year's special player or special player candidate. There's probably, what would you say, Aslan? There's probably 8 guys that are candidates to be special. He's one of them right now for sure. And maybe they all 8 turn out to be special, but he's certainly one of them. I would say both wide receivers, one of the tight ends, probably Landon Thomas. But those guys, they have some special juice, some special sauce to them. And it's just got to be brought out of them. And, we won't know. Nothing will be certain this spring. But, yeah, it'd be a nice place to start to see it. And, yeah, I think it sounds like they're very, very interested in what James Williams at 265 looks like. Like, is he a wrecking ball?
Yeah.
Again, man, there have been some incredible defensive ends at this school over the last 4 decades. Where does he stack up? Is he between Wadsworth and Boulware? Is he more of a Burns, Jermaine Johnson? What are we thinking, Aslan? But he's got, this is the real deal when it comes to defensive ends. So it's hard for us to oversell. We don't want to oversell a defensive end, right? Because there's not but maybe 4 or 5 schools in the country that have had better defensive end play for the last 4 decades. So you got to go above and beyond to be somebody that Florida State fans get genuinely excited about. When it comes to defensive end. But maybe he's a guy, man. Maybe he's one of these guys that we will be talking about 10 years from now.
I'm more interested in becoming head over heels excited about James Williams and Darrell Jackson, but Darrell Jackson's another guy that might be in that special column because the way that Knighton talked about him, Corey, was equally as effusive, I think. Let me know if you agree.
Me personally, watching the D tackles around the country and watching him play last year, he should be the first D tackle taken off the board in the draft next year. So that's the standard that I have for him, that standard that he has for himself, and so far so good.
So you got a guy that is going to be a one and done if he plays the way that you think he's capable of and the way that you're going to push him. And then you've got another guy that if he plays to the level that he's capable of and that you think you can push him to, will be the number 1 defensive tackle taken in the NFL draft. So,
do you find it ironic that
Corey? What happens, Corey? What happens if they're actually going to be awesome?
We'll get to that in a second. But I find it ironic and funny, legitimately funny, that they're worried about the media watching spring practice because they don't want us to put expectations on these players, too high of expectations on these players from a couple of practices we see in March and April. Meanwhile, the new D-line coach is basically coaching a bunch of first-round picks. The early, like Darrell, you know what I mean? Like Darrell Jackson and James Williams. This is the second coming of Boulware and Wilson. Yeah. Holy cow! Yes, but no. And the beauty about Terrance Knighton, man, is he doesn't say that stuff lightly, and I love it. I'll be honest with you, I love that talk for so long. And Odell. God, he was there today.
He was.
God love him. Been part of the program for 4 decades. An all-time great Nole. He would never talk about someone like that.
No,
ever.
no.
Ever. He had Bunkley and Dockett and wouldn't talk about them like that. They got a chance to be good. They got a chance to be pretty good. I love it when somebody like Krzyzewski with Duke. he would always say stuff like, well, obviously Kyrie's probably the best player in the country. This was before he got hurt his freshman year. He had no qualms in identifying how special his players were. In saying, oh, yeah, he's going to be a lottery pick, or he's been unbelievable. He's the best player in the country. He's one of the best players I've ever coached. He had no problem doing that for going back his whole career, at least, post-Army when he got to Duke. So I love it when coaches will talk about their players like that.
Yes, sir.
Does it put expectations on them? I don't know, and I don't care. They already have expectations that they want to be big-time players. They want to play in the NFL. So when I hear their position coach say he's only going to be here for a year because he's going to be an early entry in the NFL draft because he's that good, and this guy, for my money, should be the first defensive tackle taken off the board, absolutely. I want more of that. I don't want more number one, I want players I want that kind of talent to watch. But I also want the coaches to, heap some expectations on these guys, man. Didn't you say he said KJ Sampson has some NFL qualities?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to hear that. I'm all about that. I'm all about talking these guys up, but not just talk. There's the beauty of Terrance Knighton is he was in the NFL for a decade. He coached in the NFL, right? Did he coach with the Panthers with Rule for a year and a half? I thought he did. But even if he didn't, he was around the league for a decade. He knows what it looks like. So he has a pretty astute eye.
You're correct.
For what it takes to be in the league, and I think that really resonates. And when you tell a Darrell Jackson, hey man, if you do everything you're supposed to do, you're going to be the first defensive tackle taken off the board. Well, wouldn't that make Darrell Jackson work as hard as humanly possible?
You'd hope so,
right? Same with James Williams. Hey man, you're going to be leaving here in a year to go to the NFL. If you keep progressing like this, that gives them hope. Not just, hey man, pretty good practice. We'll see you tomorrow. Talk these guys up. I'm all about it.
Yeah, man. Knighton. Speaking back to James Williams, I mean, we're slowly unraveling the onion apparently of what James Williams went through. But Terrance Knighton said that his family separated from him midway through college, so he's obviously carrying some really big weight. But he talked about how this is the perfect situation for him because all the positivity and the way that Norvell runs the program. So I mean, underscoring that, it's yeah, man, put on the weight. Get your confidence up, go out there and play the way that you can, and then you'll have all the money you'll ever need. And you'll be able to take care of your own family that you'll be starting. So we won't be able to see it live in the flesh until August 30th, though. But maybe fall practice, we'll see it. But
we get a scrimmage, too, right?
Oh, we do get a scrimmage. That's right.
We get a scrimmage, which actually, I'll be honest with you,
That's fair. That's a good bargain.
I love watching that trumps 6 practices.
Yes, sir.
Getting to watch a scrimmage, absolutely.
Yeah, we've never been able to watch a scrimmage, so yeah. Don't let it be confused that we weren't complaining or weren't nagging too much about it, everybody. But I got to a point there where listening to Tony say that, yeah, the best offense in the country, it's not a pipe dream. And then the way that Terrance Knighton's talking about guys that, well, listen, man, Mike, this is a line in the sand for Mike. The silver lining, if you want to call it that, from being 2-10 was that you don't have that. There's no other reboot. I think Jeff and Tom referred to this as Norvell 2.0. That's the last version of him you're ever going to get at Florida State. Purging your assistant coaches, your highest paid coordinators, to bring in this level of coordinators, some other assistant coaches, doing a whole nother 40 new player kind of reboot. This is the last chance you get to save your job kind of at this level, at a program of this caliber. So that level of urgency. Gus obviously, I think, has an eye to wanting to maybe get back into the game of being a head coach at the SEC level. Tony White's got aspirations. If all these guys are coming together and they've got enough talent, maybe not 2023 talent, maybe not for sure 2013 national title talent that you saw in that scrimmage you talked about on the show yesterday, Corey, but this roster, this conference, man, if we can just mess around and 9 games maybe gets us to Charlotte. It got Clemson to Charlotte last year. And then we get ourselves in the playoff, and then who knows? I did not think that would be coming to my mind at any point really this season until they won maybe 4 games in a row to start it off. But here we are after a luncheon and feeling the buzz from that red Kool-Aid, the fruit punch. I'm a fruit punch guy.
I'm going to tell you. And also, yeah, the Flavor Aid. Come on, get it right. And also, well, that's what Jim Jones used.
Yeah, I'm not trying to die. We're not trying to die here. We're trying to live.
Right, that's true. Kool-Aid never killed anyone. What a bad publicity for Kool-Aid.
Terrible.
When they're like, guys, it wasn't us. We have Kool-Aid in French Guiana. They had to go get a knockoff thing called Flavor Aid, whatever that even is. But, yeah, I would say this, and I agree with you. You want to hear that stuff. Best offense in the country. All these guys are first-round picks on my defensive line. They have not had a single snap on the grass where they have seen this team yet.
Fair.
It's all winter workouts. There has not been football plays involved at all. So we'll see. And I did talk to Hand about I talked to Tony White about it, honestly. Like, because I asked him, like, all these things you've seen, can you really know as a new coach, can you really know what a player is until you see him in the grass in front of you playing the sport? And he's like, absolutely, yeah, great point. Well, he didn't say that. I added that. He didn't say great point. I don't know why he said that. He said, the way he looked at me before he answered the question.
The nod he gave. The nod.
The inner dialogue was, man, that's a great point. That is a great point by this dude. This guy knows stuff. But he talked about on the chalkboard, they have all these things about, the workouts, the gains they made, all these things that they care about in the offseason. But he's like, yeah. But when you get on the grass, that's when you know who the person is. That's when you really find out who can play and who can't, and what matters and what really doesn't matter. Like we want them all to make gains. We want them all to be, to make strides physically and leadership wise. But it's on the field is when you find out, and so that starts Wednesday. Yes, we know Darrell Jackson can play because there's been moments where he's been unblockable. Not a ton, but there's been moments where he's been unblockable. James Williams has made plenty of plays in college already. Same with Tommy Castellanos. But we don't know what it's all going to look like together with these coaches. So, and Herb Hand said the same thing. Herb Hand, I asked, by the way, loquacious, that guy.
He's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He'll talk in a good way. And like welcoming with the way he talks. Like, I'm glad you asked that question. I want to explain this.
Yes,
but I asked him about competitive spirit. Like when you bring in four guys that have combined for over 100 starts, how do you get the guys behind them to like compete with them? Like say, I want that job. And he's like, look, if we have any second teamer or third teamer that doesn't think they should be the starter, we don't want them here. I don't want them here. I want them to, because it's like it makes everybody better. And I know I've said this a bunch. That's not some newfound philosophy that Herb Hand is espousing, but it's the truth, man. He's coaching a bunch of brand new guys, and he's like, look, we don't have any incumbents. We have guys we brought in that have played a lot, but they're not returning starters at Florida State other than Richie Leonard for a few games. And so like there's nobody that has a job secured. And then he just talked about that. Like he wants them to feel like they should be the starter, to practice like they're the starter, because there is a chance they'll have to play. Whether it's for a game, a quarter, a drive, there's always a chance a starter is going to get banged up, and you have to come in and play, and you have to be ready to play. And the way he talked about that and what practice is. But he did say, like, look, in the spring it's all about evaluation. So they all should be competing every day because nothing is guaranteed. There's no starters penciled in yet. So, I would encourage everyone, if you're a Florida State fan, which if you are, why would you be listening to this otherwise? Go watch all those interviews. Like Aslan said, we have like 11 of them, right? 11 or 12. Yeah. But they're all extensive. Like Herb Hand, I think, is 16 minutes.
Yeah, shout out to you, Corey, staying in the pocket for that long on one guy, man. My arms get too fatigued.
My arms were very fatigued. My shoulder was really barking at me. But that's what I do for the common good. Yeah. That's what I do for you people. Is I injured my shoulder recording the first-year offensive line coach talking about pass pro stances. But he did. He went into the weeds a few times, Aslan. I just wanted to get my one question in, but he went into the weeds. Like it was 16 minutes and it was 4 questions. Yeah. My man goes on, and I love it. He really does explain it in a really thoughtful and insightful way. But yeah, so I just wanted to get the one question in. But that was 16 minutes. I think Tony White's 10 minutes. I don't know how long Tokar's is. Norvell's 28 minutes. Yeah. Like we got all of them. So go watch all those if you care at all about us and your Florida State Seminoles.
The transcript came down earlier. Pull it up. So yeah, he did mention Gunnar Hansen. Jalen Early was the other player he mentioned that would, quote, probably miss the first part of spring, but expecting them to get some good work as we're rolling through. Okay. So that's your last bit of injury sort of news analysis. Otherwise, Corey, any other last thoughts from talking to Herb, the other coaches, anything else that Norvell talked about that we did not.
Oh, I did want to clarify this. So he talked a little bit about B.J. Gibson and Mekhi Danzy. And I clarified this after the press conference because I was a little bit confused. So basically for this spring, B.J. Gibson's a baseball player. Nice. He's not going to be at spring practice. He might come out every now and again, is what Norvell said, for maybe like an hour. But they have, the NCAA still has that 20-hour rule where you can only be an athlete for like 20 hours. Like you only have commitments up to 20 hours a week. Oh, so if he's a baseball player with 4 3-hour games, that's 12 hours. I assume they count the games. And then you also have those practices. So he just wouldn't have the time. Like you can't do 20 hours for baseball and 20 hours for football. It's 20 hours total.
Right.
So, and plus, as Norvell told me, he's like, look, if he was an emergency player that was the 8th outfielder or 7th outfielder, then, yeah, he would probably be with us a lot. But he's a contributor to that team. He's been a big part of that team. So because of that, he's going to stick with baseball this spring for the most part and kind of dabble in football as opposed to the other way around. And he said the same thing with Danzy, because Danzy's been so good in the 400 for the track team that he's going to spend a lot of his spring focusing on track. It just, it's going to be like track is his primary sport and football is the secondary, and that goes for both of them.
All right. Full transcript also up on warchant.com, although Corey had you covered with his transcription. Highly accurate, highly relevant.
Thank you, buddy. Highly relevant and accurate, yep.
Baseball later today, 6 o'clock, taking on Mercer. My fault. I forgot to talk about the ladies basketball program. They actually were in the tournament. When I pulled up a bracket, I only spoke about the men. I apologize.
Yep.
My bad. 6 seed going down to Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I know. I'm not a huge fan of that.
Taking on George Mason Saturday, and if they were to win that, they would get the winner of LSU, San Diego State. LSU a 3 seed.
I'm going to say they're probably going to play LSU.
Okay.
Wouldn't you say? That's probably a fair thought.
Kim Mulkey ain't going down in her own backyard.
Yeah, not
until Brooke Wyckoff puts it on her.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. Like I would just like them to lose to any other coach in America besides Mulkey. But hopefully they win a game. And I feel like it's 12 straight years they've been to the tournament, which is incredible. I think they've been to the Elite Eight once, maybe twice during that span. Definitely once because I was there. It was right. It's a bummer, man. It was right when South Carolina was getting really good. Like really good. Like Dawn's first or second year at South Carolina. Oh. Sue had an incredible team, a really, really good team, a Final Four worthy team. They weren't going to beat that UConn team that year, but they should have gotten to the Final Four. And they had to play South Carolina in Charlotte, which I didn't realize how much South Carolina fans loved women's basketball or loved Dawn Staley, but it was a road game for Florida State. It was legitimately, like I would guess, 6,000 or 7,000 or 8,000 South Carolina fans and probably 200 Florida State fans. It was a road game. Florida State led for much of the game. This was South Carolina's first Final Four. Now they're the best program in America, but this was right as that was happening. And Florida State was in the game. Leticia Romero was their best player. They were right there. They were right there. It was such a good team, and they lost by a few points in the final seconds, final minutes of that game, and that's as close as Sue ever got to the Final Four. And yeah, so but the point being, it would be really. I don't know that Tania Latson's ever had a moment in the NCAA tournament. Like I feel like she missed all of last year. They made it last year, but she was hurt. And either didn't play or didn't play much. And the same for the year before when she was a freshman. I feel like she's always injured around this time. And they maybe won a game, but she either didn't play either year or barely played or wasn't effective or something. I'd like her to make Mulkey sweat in round 2. Like really have a game going in the fourth quarter and just see what happens. And it's not just Tania Latson. Michaela Timpson is an unbelievable basketball player, too. They're not good enough to win a national championship. They're good enough to give LSU a scare. And I just want Tania Latson because that's how as great as she's been in the regular season, as awesome as Seminole as she's been, what she's done for this program, you make your legacies in March. And I hope she gets a chance this year. She's only got 2 Marches left. I hope this is the March that she is able, because she's healthy enough, and I don't know if that's true, but I hope she's healthy enough to really make a legacy. But they play on Saturday,
correct.
I think?
Correct.
Who'd you say, George Mason?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So anyway, so hopefully she has a big game and then puts a scare in LSU the next game and pulls that one off.
2015, the Gamecocks hit 61% of their field goal attempts, but despite that, did not take a lead until about 9 minutes were left in the second half. 80-74.
That was a great. It was one of the better basketball games. Literally, like one of the better basketball games I've ever covered. Because even after they took the lead, Florida State didn't go away. Like Florida State was right there with them, back and forth. And then South Carolina was just a little too good down the stretch. And they made some big shots and some tough shots. It wasn't like Florida State just played terrible defense. Those players just made great shots. It was a good team, and I think I'm sure they won the national championship a couple years later. It was 2015.
Correct.
Golly, that was 10 years ago?
That is correct.
You know what? That's right, because Cam Irving, the great Cam Irving,
yes,
was dating one of the players on the team, and I saw him outside the arena as I was walking in. I'm like, hey, man, what are you doing here? And then he told me. I can't remember who he was dating. I could if you read off the names. But yeah, he was there watching his girlfriend play. She was on the Florida State team, by the way. He wasn't a traitor. He wasn't dating one of the South Carolina players.
Damn right. Better not.
Renee Montgomery. Can you see a box score?
I can't pull up a box score. I don't.
You're the worst. I might have just completely made up a player, and I apologize.
I Googled 2015 FSU women's basketball, but everything was 2015, 2016. But I'm on Sports Reference, and I see their 2014, 2015 roster. What was the name again?
Renee Montgomery?
I don't see a Renee nor a Montgomery on this.
Okay, well, then I was wrong. I told you I completely made up that name. Now I want to Google who Renee Montgomery is.
You want me to start reading off all the names that I see here?
Yeah, go.
Adut Bolgak, Megan Conwright, Ivy Slaughter, Shaquela Thomas, Letitia Romero, Brittany Brown, Morgan Jones, Amaya Bingley, Shakina Richardson, Kai James, Lauren Coleman, Amma Degabon, Chania Ray, Gabby Bevillard.
Renee Montgomery played at UConn in 2005. I believe it. Did you say there was a Cartwright?
Megan Conwright.
Conwright. I think that was her.
Okay.
Again, though, I could be wrong. Either way, this is a great podcast. You guys are welcome. You're getting what you paid for.
I literally trying to Google her name to see if maybe there's a photo of her and her husband and see whether or not it's. But that I'm going too far down the rabbit hole. I'm going to stop right now. I don't know how we're going to work this out, Corey. We're not going to be at practice all that much anymore, but we're going to do a mailbag. I mean, I'm sure people are going to want to hear from us at some point after practice on Wednesday, but maybe a mailbag will be coming your way. Stay tuned. Stay connected. Subscribe. Thumbs up. Jeff Cameron Show usually, but today is Tuesday, so Seminole headlines. 1 to 3 o'clock. Corey and the boys letting you know what's going down. Stay connected to warchant.com. And thanks for listening. He's Corey Amazon. It's been Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com.